Siomra Beag.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sure Look, Sure Listen, the podcast that takes a pop at culture.
Sure look, sure listen. Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen. Oh, beautifully professionally delivered, Ben. It's no wonder they call you the Jerry Seinfeld of Irish podcasting. But sure look, we don't have time to get into that and whether or not you're going out with someone in secondary school, because we've got loads of stuff to look at.
I fucking am not. Hold on, stop that.
What?
Stop that.
What's wrong?
How fucking dare you?
Benjamin, don't
dare
talk
you?
during my bit, Benjamin. You're being a real Jerry Seinfeld about this, because we've not got time to look at this, because there's been lots of stuff that's happened this week, including the tragic passing of one Bernard Hill, and we've had trailers for Atlas and the Boys season 4. I, but not you, have seen The Fall Guy, and we've both seen Xmen 97, the latest and sexiest episode.
Sure, listen, Michael. If that wasn't enough,
It probably is.
I mean, there's a lot there. We're going to do a little bit on... Well, I've been watching The Dead Boy Detectives, Michael, and we got a bit of news about Scooby-Doo during the week. So we said to ourselves, why don't we do a little bit of a deep dive on occult detectives and where they come from? Because they're such a popular genre.
So popular, Benjamin. What's going on with all those spooky ghosts? Benjamin, though.
What's going on with all those spooky ghosts?
We're starting
Yeah.
the week with a bit of a sad news, because the not a great innings, 79. I suppose it is a pretty decent innings.
Yeah, he did fine.
He did all right.
It's good.
He did all right. Slightly below average for a man of our current times, but not tragically so. But Bernard Hill has passed, Benjamin. Not super well known in the genre that we're in, really. He wasn't in sci-fi fantasy and, you know, nothing really notable in that field. This is Lord of the Rings, Ben. I was doing a bit.
Except, yeah, I was about to say, Michael, except
Yes.
arguably the biggest fantasy adaptation of all time. And still one of the most successful of all time. Now, let's be clear there now. Hang on, because we'll get a few comments, Michael, from some of the fans.
The fans, yeah. You're speaking, of course, of the Scorpion King.
The Scorpion King, Michael, of course, one of the world's greatest fantasy adaptations, launching the career of a young Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. No, Michael, I mean the original Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings trilogy, with a heavy focus on bloody practical effects. And of course he played young King... Oh, it's going to slip my brain now.
This is really calling your fantasy podcasting credentials into question, that you can't remember the name.
Théoden. Théoden, you prick.
Benjamin, look,
bastard.
for Rune and for the end of the world, he had a good innings and he was in some classic stuff.
Classic stuff. Michael, come here to me.
What?
I'm going to play a game with you.
Oh, I'd love to play a game, Benjamin.
Yeah. And the game we're going to play is very simple, Michael.
I'm very simple.
Are you ready?
That sounds fabulous, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to describe a plot and you're going to guess the film.
Oh, I love this.
This is a good game. So, Michael, there's a bunch of what look to be humans in space.
Avatar.
No, not quite yet.
Okay.
I'll give you a few more context clues and then you can take
Okay, sorry, my apologies.
And, Michael, they're orbiting a planet that's very dangerous.
Aliens.
No, not quite, Michael.
Okay, right.
And they're told, Michael, you'll only be able to go down to that planet with a bunch of specialised training.
Okay, yeah. Prometheus. It's Prometheus.
Not quite, Michael.
Okay,
no,
right.
not quite, Michael. And, Michael, once you go down to that planet, everything's going to try and kill you. It's going to try and get you. Everything.
Predators 2. The film Predators 2, Ben.
Not quite, Michael. No, nearly there. And Michael, then, of course, one of the main characters of it, who's probably an A-lister in their own right, is going to be stranded on that planet without the requisite training to survive on the planet.
Oh, After Earth with Will Smith.
Precisely, Michael. Yeah, absolutely. That's the one I was aiming at. But Michael, don't worry.
What?
That celebrity, or burgeoning celebrity, is going to be coached through it by a sager, wiser, calmer voice in their ear all the time.
Oh, well, it was After Earth. That was your whole point. I think I've stumbled upon the joke.
Michael, for some fucking reason, we've gotten a trailer for Atlas.
Yeah, this is...
starring Jennifer Lopez,
Of all people.
Simu Liu, and Sterling K. Smith.
And Mark Strong. Don't forget Mark Strong.
Sterling K. Brown.
Yeah.
And Mark Strong. Mark Strong was there, Michael. And it's a mech. It's a mech fantasy starring Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez. Continuing the trend of very inappropriately attractive Latina scientists. Our latest in our long line of unlikely scientists is now Jennifer Lopez as a scientist, out of her depth in the world of mech suits.
Michael, this had a real case of trope bingo going on at the start, because Mark Strong literally utters the line of, "She's one of our best. We'd be fools not to utilise her."
Yeah.
I was like, Mark Strong, you're better than this.
He's not, Benjamin. He'll do a voiceover for the cinema. He'll voice over literally anything with Mark Strong. At the same time, they also say she's one of the worst. They're like, she's done the worst on anyone trying to pilot these things, and she hates AI.
Yeah, but we need her mind.
But we need her a great mind, because she's the super smartest of all. Look, I thought the misstep of this was it seems to be presenting Jennifer Lopez as a rookie. And I don't think that is what's going on. I think that it's just she's never been in the field before. But presenting 55-year-old sex symbol Jennifer Lopez as a rookie scientist on their first mission, it's such a weird choice of lead. Anything else I can forgive, but the concept and the person in the role are just not gelling for me at all.
The other thing that really annoys me about stuff like this, Michael, is in an age that is clearly dominated by AI, because they're piloting mechs using an AI synergy. Like, there is a noted scientist or technical expert in their field going, I don't know about this AI. And you're like, well, it drives, I would say, 95% of the world's trade and economy, Jennifer Lopez, the scientist. Maybe you should get on board.
Get on board with it. We're quite a good bit into the future now. We're bipping around to other planets. We're in self-propelled walking mech suits that can neural link with your brain. Benjamin, I don't know. I reckon she maybe invented AI or something, and she knows it's dodgy.
But we've also seen that, Michael, in the bloody classic Joel Edgerton, not Joel Edgerton, who's the other fellow? Joel Kinnaman. Joel Kinnaman, who's bloody stacks. He's got stacks, and they invented the stack technology, and they're like, oh, I don't like the stack technology. Altered carbon. That was
Altered carbon.
A superhero.
Benjamin.
I felt... Oh, go on.
I was watching this, and I couldn't help but thinking of our discussion about atomic bomb films the other week, because, you know, in the 50s after the bomb and in the lead up to the bomb, everything was just about atomics, and then we kind of went, what's that of our age? And it really is AI, isn't it? This is just another AI film for the AI pile.
Yeah, just stick it on the block. Just throw it in.
Ironically enough, probably largely written by AI.
I would have to say, at least, much like the economy of the world it's set in, 95% AI.
Yeah. Like, this might be AI.
But they've made a fatal misstep, Michael. They have timed this movie's release with what I can only call the PR downfall of Jennifer Lopez. Have you been keeping up with Jennifer Lopez gossip online?
She's getting absolute...
So this has happened for a number of reasons. She's recently released her own... She calls it a documentary, but it is essentially a fanfic project of her own life. And she did two things. She released this film. It's called This Is Me, Now. And that's very important, because the 3 dots are on the poster. That's part of the movie's title.
Yeah.
And it's called A Love Story. And it is essentially a kind of magical realist internal monologue. Well, magical realist is incorrect, Michael. It's framed using magical realism, and then it's kind of like Inside Out for adults, but with MTV's 2006 movie budget.
Yeah, great stuff.
So the graphics are rubbish. And she released this, Michael, and that got dragged on the internet first. And then she tried to release the behind-the-scenes making-of documentary that's been popularised by Disney Plus, as they release kind of a partner documentary or behind-the-scenes thing to all their Marvel properties. So you only have to wait about a week and a half after the series drops to get the making of documentary. In that, Michael, she just goes on to talk a load of shit about where she's from and her background, and the internet has gone, that's not true, Jennifer Lopez, you're lying, why are you lying? And for some reason they show a multitude of shots, Michael, of her and her partner Ben Affleck.
He was Batman.
Through this process, she is reading lines from the script that she wrote herself to Oscar-winning screenplay writer Ben Affleck.
Oh, yeah.
And he is being filmed, and he has to pretend like, yeah, no, that's good. And you could just see he's lying. It's just not true. He's just not telling the truth. And then he goes on to say in one of the many talking head asides that he doesn't want this film released because it's J-Lo going through her entire love life up to Ben Affleck.
Uh-oh.
To which he was like, I think people's love lives are private. I wouldn't make this film. And they put it in the documentary, Michael. Yeah. And it's the most jarring experience on the planet. Yeah. But what it has led to is a wave of anti-Jennifer Lopez propaganda and a bizarre surge in support for Ben Affleck and a return of Jennifer Garner. They want Jennifer Garner back in his life.
Oh,
it's
no.
Weird.
Oh, no, that doesn't sound great. Poor Ben Affleck.
But no, like the internet's on Ben Affleck's side. The comments on all of these that have been released on TikTok and Instagram and all the other things have just been like, that man looks tired. That man's had enough.
He's looked very tired for the last 20 years, though, let's be honest. Ever since Justice League, basically, he's been suffering through. Benjamin, anyway, look, Atlas doesn't look super promising. Weird concept, weird bit of casting. Maybe J-Lo was somehow involved in getting this made.
It has to be something like that, Michael. Sure, look, sure, listen.
What?
Come here to me, Michael. That's the name of our podcast.
It is actually, yeah. That is the name of it.
And do you know what? Do you know what you could do if you enjoyed that bit of J-Lo slander there, ladies and gentlemen?
Just lay on top of, just lay in. Add more. Just Ben has a channel on the Discord.
First of all,
for J-Lo bashing.
It's called anti-J-Lo bashing. But speaking of Discords, Michael, what you could do to support this podcast, if you've been enjoying it thus far, is give us a review, first of all, wherever you're listening, on the old Apple Podcasts, on the Spotifys, whatever. Or you could follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, and the best way to get in touch with us, ladies and gentlemen, is to hop up on that Discord linked below in the description.
Hop up on it, Benjamin, and say any sort of slander you want about J-Lo, because it's unmonitored. Benjamin, speaking of piling into either side of a culture war, The Boys is very much about modern American civilization, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just This Is America, but with superpowers.
This is America now, Ben. 3 dots.
Very good, Michael. Very good.
Yeah.
I see what you did there. Yeah. Excellent.
Anyway, it's coming back for season 4, and we got the final trailer, or a trailer. And I don't know if it reeled too much.
It looks to be a reassurance to audiences that this is the same old Boys you've come to expect.
Back off from your mic a little bit, Ben. I'm getting a lot of popping and noise. You might have to edit. It doesn't look like it's revealing anything particularly new, though, does it?
No, I think it's just this is still The Boys. We're still boysing.
It's still The Boys
as we go on through.
People are going to get exploded.
Still The Boys.
They're going to get exploded.
People are going to blow up.
People are going to blow up. There's going to be fascists and anti-fascists.
Yeah, there's going to be a little girl with tentacles in her mouth.
There's going to be a little girl with tentacles in the mouth. There's going to be super-powered sheep and chickens, which looks fantastic.
Michael, what a concept.
Yeah. Super-powered farm animals is quite scary because you can't reason with farm animals, Ben.
You can't. Then again, you can't reason with Homelander, Michael.
Oh, very good. So which is scarier, a super-powered sheep or him?
Superpowered sheep, still, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, imagine a superpowered cow that just got slightly pissed off at you.
Yeah, or even very pissed off at you. Cows are pretty docile, though.
Oh, just... until you tick one the wrong way, Michael.
Could you tip a super-powered cow, Ben? Could you tip him over, or would you just ride himself back up?
No, they just float. They just rotate until they went full 360. And
that does make it tricky. But anyway, look, it looks like the thrust of this season is going to be the Homelander. Anthony Starr is the Homelander. Deciding that it's time for them to stop being celebrities and start being tyrants.
Yeah, he's just gone full Kingdom Come / injustice.
Yeah,
on the whole
exactly.
thing.
He's like, no more Mr. Nice
Yeah.
Guy. Time to start doing some public executions of dissenters.
It's time to start getting rid of them, gang.
Yeah.
All these whiny little normal people and their whiny normal people problems. I think a good public flogging / lasering / eviscerating / dismembering is due.
Yeah. Looks good. Anyway, we still haven't gotten much detail on who the new members of the Seven are, I don't think.
We got a few glimpses there, Michael. They look to be people. One of the interesting things that I did think came out of that trailer, Michael, was the Deep looks to be in deep, as it were.
He's loving it.
He's loving it. He's loving a chance. In the great fashion of on-screen cowards, Michael.
Yes, go on.
He is a man who's just getting into the violence of it because he's finally got the protection of the big bad, and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck stuff up now because no one can touch me. He's a real fucking yellow-bellied streak of piss, Michael.
Nobody likes the Deep. Fair play to that guy for playing him, because it's a thankless job to play such a creep.
Jace Crawford just fucking owning it, Michael. What a phenomenal bit of work.
Doing great stuff. Speaking of, though, Ben, unrepentant creeps, they released the trailer for Homelander in Mortal Kombat, and he's drinking that milk again, and very unpleasant.
Lashing it into him, Michael. Lactose intolerance, never heard of it, says the Homelander. Just give it to me straight from the teat, quite literally.
Anthony Starr has just truly mastered making drinking milk one of the most disgusting things you've ever seen.
Anthony Starr makes the act of being stared at one of the most truly disgusting things I've ever seen. He's a phenomenal actor, Michael.
He's a very strange fella.
He does seem like... do you know what? It's funny. I've kind of come... My good lady friend and I have come up with a system.
Oh, go on.
Where we commend someone for their talent, but the way that we decide whether or not we think they're a sound person is, I wouldn't have a pint with them, or I would have a pint with them.
Go on.
And I wouldn't have a pint with Anthony Starr.
I reckon you would. He's antipodean, isn't he?
I don't.
You'd be like, oh, yeah, mate, I was making that show, and it was fair dinkum difficult. Mate, he would say stuff like that, I imagine.
Thus begins our new podcast section, ladies and gentlemen, where we attempt to do either an Australian or a Kiwi accent, depending on how we feel that day, in an attempt to just capitalise on the sales of Auntie Donna's podcast. I'm trying to get in on that.
Yeah, get in some of that. They had him, remember? They got him. They
did, yeah. No, he's
great stuff.
He's the stray man.
Yeah, great stuff. Anyway, Benjamin, look, speaking of people who probably aren't very sound, I went to see the film The Fall Guy.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell you what, it's alright-ish. So, yeah. Look, what can you say? So anyway, look, what's his name again? The baby goose. Brian Gosling. Brian Gosling and Emily Blunt.
Yes.
They're a couple,
correct,
Ben. And they're in love. And she's a camera operator.
Oh.
And he's a stuntman.
Uh-huh.
And he's the stuntman for a huge international superstar actor, played very humorously by Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Oh, excellent.
Very good. Benjamin, who would you have said is taller, Aaron Taylor Johnson or Brian Gosling?
I think Aaron Taylor Johnson is a taller man.
Yeah, wouldn't you? No, he's not. He's substantially shorter, would you believe? Brian Gosling is surprisingly tall. He gives off the short vibes, but he's not short at all. He's actually well above average.
Just because I've been on the receiving end of a few correcting comments on social media this week from listeners of the podcast and shorts, we do know his name is Ryan Gosling. We're doing a humorous bit where we call him Brian Gosling, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. I just can't read another comment. One person told us, I wish people that didn't know anything about the X-Men would shut up talking about them on the internet this week, Michael.
Oh, yeah.
And it ruined my day.
Oh, yeah. What
really
have you got wrong, Ben?
Well, unfortunately, Michael, I clipped one of our reels incorrectly. So
this does sound like it might be your fault, then.
It's absolutely my fault. I'm not saying we weren't wrong. I'm just sick of having it pointed out.
Yeah, right. Fair enough.
We were talking about Bastion, and I had mistakenly said... Well, no, I had mistakenly edited it so that it sounded like what I was saying was that Nimrod and Master Mold were introduced in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
What we were actually saying was that Bastion was introduced in the 90s to give Sentinels their teeth back, essentially.
Yeah.
But I fucked the edit and made it sound like I was saying that Nimrod and Master Mold were our introductions in the 90s, and several people popped up to point out that the 80s and the 60s were when those two characters were introduced.
Yeah, famously. Yeah, Nimrod's from the 80s and Master Mold is from the 60s. Imagine everyone knows that. But look, anyway, Brian Johnson, what's his name? Brian Gosling plays the stuntman, the fall guy. And he's in love with Emily Blunt. But he has an accident, Ben. He falls off a thing during a stunt.
Oh, no.
Yeah, can you imagine? But then, 18 months later, he's become a schlubby, super handsome, super sexy, super muscular. But he's schlubby, all right? He's doing a low-paying job and he's let himself go, Ben. I'm giving you a big wink. He's Hollywood let himself go.
I can see that.
He's grown his hair long and grown a bit of a beard. But he's still one of the top 5 most handsome men in the world. But look, don't worry about that because he's let himself go. And then suddenly, Ben, and surprisingly, he gets a call back from his old mates in the world of films. And they say, we need you back because Emily Blunt, your girlfriend who you haven't spoken to since your accident, is making a movie and she needs you.
Oh.
So off he flies to Australia, Ben, and you can tell it's Australia because there's a different coloured filter on everything.
Oh, very good. Does it look an awful lot like Mexico in it?
Yeah, faintly. There's a faintly. It's not quite. The Australia filter isn't quite as yellow as the Mexico filter, but it's definitely a bit more yellow than the real world filter, which is America.
Real world filter America. Notably, Michael, the least real place to me ever.
Yeah. Essentially imaginary.
But,
look, that's why they put
essentially an imaginary kingdom.
They run the real world filter over American footage. So anyway, Ben, off he pops to do the main stuntman on Metal Storm. And Metal Storm is Emily Blunt's character's dream movie that she's always wanted to make, which is a romance, galactic, sci-fi invasion war movie. It's like John Carter of Mars, Mad Max, and Dune, and Rebel Moon, Child of Fire Part 2 all had a big giant baby. That's the movie she's making. And see how your eyebrows are going, what? That's kind of my biggest... So anyway, that's the basic setup. That's what's going on. He's brought over there in mysterious circumstances. Turns out she didn't ask for him, Ben. So someone's up to something. And he's going to have to use his special stuntman powers to figure out what's going on. I went to see this with my good lady wife, Benjamin. And she thoroughly enjoyed it. Because...
That's good.
It's nearly funny. It's harmless in a lot of ways. The cinema was full of all sorts of people. Every type of person you could possibly imagine. This was the broadest demographic I've seen in the cinema in years. A family came in. 4 generations of a family came in together to watch Brian Gosling in The Fall Guy.
That's a lot of generations.
Exactly, Benjamin. But my biggest criticism of this as a film is the world that everything is taking place in is only half a notch less hyper real or comedy than the likes of, say, Zoolander. Like, they essentially live in a comedy world. In a comedy world where, say, Aaron Taylor-Johnson is recognised as the greatest film star of his time, even though he's obviously very purposely terribly acting in this. Like, imagine if the characters lived in the Zoolander world. The vast majority of the cast just play it straight.
Okay.
That's what this is like. So the movie that she's making is just a farcical thing, which has a very heavy yellow filter over everything. And they just flat out play the sounds from the Dune trailer every time they show clips of the movie. You know that Dune sound?
Oh, right, okay.
You know that kind of...
Yeah.
No, not that one. The kind of...
not the bomb.
No, the start of the chanting. I can't replicate it, but it's like... Yeah! You know that Dune sound?
That was very good, Michael.
It wasn't, but you get the point. They play that every time we see a clip of this fake movie. And the fake movie looks terrible. But they are still playing it like this is going to be a huge hit, and it's going to be in Hall H in Comic-Con, and this is her big break. And yeah, it's like it's in a comedy world, and this was written to be a straight comedy. But none of the leads play it as a straight comedy. They play it as a slightly understated, witty action film. Does that make sense? Is that making any sense whatsoever, what I'm getting at? So
makes sense.
It's kind of... I think if it was a straight comedy like it was probably written to be, it might be worse. Because Emily Blunt and the Goose are good.
Goose.
So,
nice.
So they're good.
That's his new name on the podcast.
I've stolen that from someone, Ben. I can't claim that. I've definitely heard that on the internet. So they're good. They're both very good. And that makes it enjoyable.
Okay.
As a movie, it's borderline incoherent in terms of none of this makes sense. Why is anybody doing any of this stuff? I get that it's creating great action scenes and stuff, but is this a universe without consequences and without logic, and where the maddest reaction to everything is the right reaction? Do you get where I'm coming from?
I get where you're yeah, okay.
I don't know if
I get where you... It sounds like a jarring experience.
I thought it was a little bit of a jarring experience. I was watching it going, this is a weird film. It feels... I suppose I'm labouring the point a little bit now, but it feels like a comedy film being played straight. Or like it was either they decided it wasn't a comedy at the last minute, or... When I was going with my good lady wife, Benjamin, I was thinking that this was going to be much more like, say, the action movies, the romantic comedy action movies of the 80s, like, say, A Romancing the Stone.
Right.
And it very much isn't. It's not a double header. It's not a two-hander. It's not Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling teaming up for comedy romance hijinks. It's a straight Ryan Gosling action movie with a side story of a love story with Emily Blunt. So, it's... My lovely lady wife loved it. She thought it was great. She had a thoroughly good time. Sometimes in the cinema, I was the only one who laughed, and I felt a bit self-conscious. That was actually pretty...
no,
that was actually
Michael,
pretty
you
funny.
have a lovely...
Yeah, not about my laugh, Benjamin. It's just like, why did no one else laugh at that? That was a joke. That was a joke in this comedy film that no one's laughing at, because...
That was an objectively funny moment in this.
I don't know if it'd be objectively funny, but probably the best bit, though, at the end, Benjamin, because it's so heavily about stunts and stunt performance and stunt reactions that they show you all the stunts they did at the end. And
that's cool.
Probably one of the best bits, because I think we've gotten so used to CGI stunts and CGI adding to stunts that... there's a highway chase scene in this where Ryan Gosling's fighting an Australian in a dumpster that's being dragged along. And I don't know if the Australian was meant to be in the film, because it was just an Australian and Ryan Gosling started fighting him. But that's neither here nor there. It reminded me of the, say, again, to use Ryan Gosling as the example, do you remember the tramway fight scene in The Grey Man?
Yes.
I was watching it and it reminded me of that, because it's Ryan Gosling doing a high-speed action fight scene in a public street in some sort of transport. But I think we have been conditioned that high-speed action fight scenes aren't exciting and thrilling these days because they're probably mostly special effects.
Comes from the man who did Bullet Train, though, doesn't it? David Leitch.
It does indeed,
David Leitch.
Which is probably how he got Aaron Taylor Johnson involved.
But he's a man who firmly believes that the heavy special effects action film has a future.
Yeah.
But I guess...
but I'm saying this isn't a criticism of this film, because this film does the practical effects and does genuinely have Ryan Gosling, the real actor Ryan Gosling, in a dumpster with a real-life Australian being dragged along a real street and being filmed. But because we see so many films these days where that sort of thing is done out of camera, it doesn't actually... I think it's... The nature of Hollywood has lessened the impact of good stunts, sadly.
Oh, right. Okay. So, okay. Because there's not as much... Like, Tom Cruise wore that as a badge of honor for such a long time, didn't he?
And I mean, a lot of things are parodied in this, and several of those things are Tom Cruise.
Oh, well, that's good. I enjoy nothing makes me happier, Michael, than a good old-fashioned Cruise ribbing.
A little bit of Cruise ribbing.
Michael.
For example, the superstar actor is called Tom Ryder in this. And
that's just Tom Cruise by another name, Michael.
Exactly.
Cruising and riding are two forms of movement.
You get it?
Very good.
And he's accused of having a funny run and not being able to do action. But then they take the lampshade off it later on in the movie, when after Ryan Gosling has had his face scanned and they explain to him how they're going to use face replacement technology for his scenes, he says, "Can you make me look like Tom Cruise?" So they take the lampshade off of the earlier joke that Tom Ryder is Tom Cruise, because apparently Tom Cruise exists in this universe. It's entirely separate from Tom Ryder. So yeah, and there's other weird meta stuff as well. Like, very early in the plot, in the film, they're discussing the movie that they're making, and Emily Blunt is having a conversation with one of her scriptwriters who says, "We're still having trouble with Act 3. How about we have a character in the movie come up and say, we're still having trouble with Act 3, and then people will give us a bit of slack that the Act 3 is a bit disappointing." That becomes a kind of running gag before Act 3 goes completely off the rails. Like, this is nearly meta. It's nearly meta, nearly self-referential. Not quite, and everyone's playing it straight. It's weird. It's a weird movie.
Interesting.
It's not
okay.
It's not a bad movie, though. I'm not. At no point did I think this is rubbish. It's not what I thought it was going to be. It's not what I expected from it. But it's a bit overlong. I think it's more than 2 hours. But if you want a fun, kind of frivolous action film that is dumb, but not a high violence, high danger, edge of your seat action film, just a fun action film, pretty good. And my lady wife loved it.
Huh. Well, Michael, that's a fucking massive win.
Go on, says you.
Then. Go on, says me. Go on, says me. Speaking, Michael, of massive fucking wins this week.
Go on.
Did you see that fucking X-Men 97 episode?
Holy Jesus, great stuff, Ben. Why have you got a
fucking
flow
magic
chart?
stuff, Michael. Look, Michael, there were so many notes I had to take this week that I literally made a fucking flow chart.
Ben's made a flow chart,
to make
ladies
sense
and
of it all.
gentlemen. This incredible flow chart.
Michael, this episode blew me out of the water. They stuffed so much stuff into this episode that I had to make a flow chart to get my stream of consciousness out correctly.
Well, you take the lead on this one, Benjamin. You imagine you're Jesus and just take the wheel.
Well, Michael, previous to this week's episode...
Previously on X-Men.
Previously on X-Men 97, to me, my X-Men, we got a hint that old Magneto wasn't dead. And by hint, I mean a full scene explaining that Magneto wasn't dead.
Yeah, we saw him. Remember, he was getting a shave.
He was getting a shave from Bastion. And it was leading us into Bastion's grand plan to eliminate the mutants.
Get more Sentinels, which we predicted, Ben. We said it. We said get more Sentinels.
Get more Sentinels, Michael, but the way in which he gets more Sentinels is fucking horrific. We got a little taste of that this week, Michael, in X-Men 97, Episode 7, Tolerance is Extinction.
Part 1.
Part 1 of a two-parter? Three-parter?
Three-parter.
Parter, that's a lot of parts. And, Michael, this episode just fucking puts on its Sunday best, struts out and says, "I'm not your Daz X-Men animated series. I'm something else entirely."
Yeah, no. Having said that, though, it literally is your Daz X-Men animated series. It literally is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But they've gone to great lengths, Michael, to really balance jank and new storytelling and animation. One of my favorite scenes, Michael, in the entire show is the very first scene with Nathan Cable Summers, the man of the future, with technology that can stop the Bastion hybrid Super Sentinel in its track, practicing his aim on some glass bottles out the front of the X-Men Institute.
Yeah, and he misses a couple as well, which is not great.
There's a fucking danger room downstairs, you bollocks.
Yeah. Not great. Not a great look for him.
Speaking of tropes that need to ride off into the sunset, Michael, if I have to watch one more montage of someone learning to shoot using glass bottles, fucking silly.
I think it's
Get out of town.
I think it's a very American experience, Ben. I think it might not really apply to us.
It might not apply to us. Anyway, the man of the future is doing that. I thought it was fucking magic. What a load of jank that was. But Michael, we got so much. It's hard to talk about this episode, Michael, without giving away spoilers. So I'm just going to say, right, from here on out, ladies and gentlemen, we've got some big old spoilers for X-Men 97, Tolerance's Extinction, Part 1. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, every week.
Fair,
We're going to do it every week.
Yeah, we're going to do it every week, Michael. But come here to me.
What?
Come here to me. Listen to me now. Listen to me. You listen to me, right?
I'm listening to you.
Michael, this episode was fucking spectacular.
Great stuff.
Fucking spectacular.
Anyway, Ben.
First of all,
Yeah, go on.
Dr. Cooper worked for the fucking mutant-hating agenda all along. What the fuck?
Oh, Valerie Cooper. I knew you were no good. Even when I thought you were Mystique, I knew you were no good.
I also thought she was Mystique at one point.
I think we all thought she was Mystique at one point or another, Ben. It's a very Mystique-esque character to be.
Yeah. Michael, this was bizarre to me. There was no hint that this was the case, no build-up. She just walks in a Bastion-esque uniform and is like, I'm very sorry. I didn't know.
Yeah. Benjamin, look, the most important thing about that scene is this cartoon has finally lived up to its Chris Claremont origins, because Bastion kidnapped Magneto and he could have kept him in a cell, but no, he stripped him down to his Speedos and put him spread eagle on a bondage cross. And I went, Chris Claremont would be spinning in his grave with excitement if he were dead, which he isn't. So Chris Claremont must have been spinning in his grave with excitement. And then not only did Magneto spend most of the episode in 3/4 nude bondage, then when Val Cooper releases him later on, she gets thrust up in some sort of biomechanical sex bondage. I was like, Chris Claremont would be absolutely rubbing his hands together with glee.
He'd be rubbing something with glee.
Yes,
I don't
he
know if it'd be his hands, Michael. I don't know if he his hands.
It's very hard to get your hands on any glee these days, Ben. Chris Claremont's used it all
in
up.
short supply.
Yeah.
In short supply. So, Michael, I think one of the things I enjoyed most about this, speaking of bioorganic or techno-organic malice, as it were, one of my favourite things about this was the biological sentinels, the hybrid human sentinels that we saw in the previous episode in Trask. Michael, horrific body horror stuff going on there.
Absolutely gross and horrible. The whole scene with Bastion's mother was straight out of Resident Evil 7.
His own mother, Michael.
His own mother.
He does it to his own mother.
In his own creepy house with his own creepy childhood drawings. The atmosphere and tension of those series of that sequence of scenes was fabulous.
They really went in for an Evil Dead style creepy childhood home.
Yeah.
Haunted by the ghosts of the past and trauma. Very interesting stuff. I thought we speculated a little bit last week, Michael, on what they could possibly do with Bastion's origins for this. And they've just given us a very streamlined one. So it turns out Nimrod from the future sends some, what is essentially sentinel jizz.
A bit of sentinel jizz, yeah. It goes right up his dad's leg.
Back in time, up his dad's leg, into his mum, presumably through his dad.
Yeah.
And it leads to what looks to be a little pink boy, and nobody bats an eyelid.
Well, there's mutants about, so I guess everyone just assumes he's a mutant.
I don't think they were allowing mutants to go to school in the 90s in the X-Men, were they?
Yeah. Sure, look, Beast is in his 50s. So, I mean, there's been mutants around for a good long while. Like...
For a good long while.
I think what we're presented with in the first couple of seasons of the X-Men is that we've reached a tipping point of them. So everyone's aware of mutants. There've been mutants around for a while. But we've reached a tipping point in the number of them. And an anti-mutant sentiment is starting to develop that wasn't necessarily there before. But all of the X-Men are adults. And I mean, Magneto has been hardened against humans by the time the series even starts. But this was the tipping point.
Yeah, The origin for me of Bastion, though, was really reminiscent of Batman Beyond, or how Terry McGinnis came to be a suitable candidate to become Batman Beyond. I don't know if you remember this, Michael. Did you ever see this episode of Justice League?
No. Well, yes, but I don't remember. I don't see the parallel, Ben. Inform me.
Right. Well, so there's a bit of a retcon that happens in Justice League to Batman Beyond's origin. Initially, Terry McGinnis, Michael, is just another person who's lost his father to crime.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne takes him in as kind of an uncut gem and forges him into the diamond that would be Batman.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So that was the standard thing for years, Michael. From the inception of Batman Beyond as an animated cartoon series, and that happened for a long time. And then in one Justice League Unlimited episode, we get a strange framing device, which is Terry McGinnis tracking down Amanda Waller.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason he does this is because he's just had a series of advanced genetic testing done on him.
He's Bruce Wayne's son.
And it turns out that genetically, based on his markers, he is Bruce Wayne's son. So the episode starts with him confronting Bruce Wayne for tampering with his father's genetics to give him a genetically apt kind of almost clone, semi-clone to forge into Batman.
Oh, so basically Bruce Wayne replaced Terry's dad's spunk with his own spunk.
Precisely. But then, Michael, the heel of the reel of the jig is that it wasn't Bruce Wayne who did this at all, but Amanda Waller.
Oh, what did Amanda Waller do it for?
So Amanda Waller, this is the framing episode that shows us the famous scene where Batman sits on a swing with Ace, the little telepath who's incredibly powerful and can cause hallucinations, and holds her hand towards the end. And this apparently, Michael, is the incident that made Amanda Waller realise how crucial Batman's to maintaining the superhero vigilante community, and how there would always have to be a Batman. So as she grew, and as humanity moved into the future, she put the wheels in motion to essentially ensure Batman had some kind of offspring to take over the mantle.
I'm sure he was always kidnapping orphans and bloody training them. Benjamin, what's this got to do with Bastion?
I know. Michael, it's all about fucking replacing Dad's spunk with a bit of genetic material from the foreign and the outside, Michael. That's all I could think of when I say.
Yeah, so he's half human, half Nimrod, basically.
Essentially, yeah. He's the pinnacle of achievement. And then, Michael, what we get is, I think, so we kick off and we find out just how widespread Bastion's new Sentinel initiative is. And it turns out he's converted thousands of people.
He's a bit of a prick
to this. And I think it's hinted at either that these people initially signed up to do it.
I don't think it's
out of fear of mutants.
Yeah, it's not hinted at. It's flat out said.
So that means that Trisha Tilby, Michael,
yes,
the reporter who has a bit of a fucking come here to me beast, you big blue fucking hunk you, she hates mutants and is actually afraid of them so much so that she'll give herself over to genetic testing.
Looks like it. Looks like he was right.
Fucking very strange.
Looks like he was right the whole time. Looks like that strop he had last week was on the money.
On the money for Beast. That intellect isn't just for fucking doing maths.
Exactly,
huh?
Benjamin.
But come here to me.
What?
Come here to me. It's fucking horrific. They're everywhere, these things. And they're more than a match for the Xmen. And what that gives us, Michael, is some of the best damn Xmen action sequences I have ever fucking seen.
Absolutely fabulous stuff. Look, no one is complaining. Some people are complaining, but who cares what they say? But no one is complaining that Wolverine has been a little bit sidelined by this season. Because we've had enough of Wolverine. We've seen everything we can possibly see from him. But still, it was good to get a Wolverine cutting loose action scene.
Oh, Michael, Wolverine falling through the sky. Because all I could think was, so Trisha Tilby takes him and she launches him into the sky and she's dragging him up into the stratosphere. And all I could think was, Wolverine could get out of this. And then he did. And I was like, oh, there we go.
Yeah. And guess how
he's not going to get nerfed.
Guess how he got out of it, Ben? Stabbing. And
that's my Wolverine impression.
Very good. One of my favourite things about this is that Morph, despite being clearly the most powerful of the X-Men, once again proves himself to be absolutely fucking useless.
Fucking useless. He turns into the Juggernaut, Michael.
The Juggernaut.
And what we've been led to believe from...
the Juggernaut, Ben.
Been led to believe from... What we've been led to believe from this show, Michael, is he can apparently take not only the form of one of these other mutants, but their power set as well.
Yeah, now I would argue that was a bit of a maybe, because Quicksilver's power, I don't know if it's inherent to his physicality, but Juggernaut's power isn't. Juggernaut's power comes from a magical other dimensional source. It's nothing to do...
Sycorax.
Yeah, the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak.
Cyttorak, that's it, yeah.
It's got nothing to do with how big he is. The fact that he's enormous is nearly a incidental byproduct of it.
Which means, Michael, Morph can apparently manipulate his physiology to approximate what he assumes people can do, which is insane.
Mental. And then he gets one shot again anyway. Absolutely.
And he just goes, oh, Wolverine, help me.
Oh, absolute top tier useless character is Morph.
But come here to me. We get a few excellent sequences, but one of the best, Michael, has to be Nightcrawler and Logan teaming up.
Fabulous.
Just fucking going ham.
The best.
Nightcrawler's got the blades out. Wolverine's got his 6 reasons right here. Fabulous.
The best Nightcrawler action sequence we've seen since Alan Cummings was leaping about in the White House.
It was a phenomenal sequence, and we've yet to see anything that approximated anything close to as cool as that until this very week, where we got to see that, and it was just fucking magic stuff. I'll even forgive, Michael, the awful, atrocious line, which is, let's show these guys why you don't mess with the Summers. And I was like, what is this? Scott Scummers, you piece
Shut
of
up, Scott Scummers. Also, that was a decent Wolverine impersonation you accidentally did there. So,
but we got fucking Captain White Boy in his Porsche convertible.
yeah. I don't think it is a convertible. I think Cable made it a convertible.
Oh, he made it a convertible. So we get this sequence where Scott Summers essentially says, let's show these guys why you don't mess with the Summers gang. And it was fucking... Forgive it, because there was a great use of powers throughout from everyone except for Cable, who can only shoot guns.
That's pretty much
the end.
That's his thing. That's what he's doing. He's shooting guns and throwing grenades.
Much Cable. But yeah, I mean, some great fucking sequences. And that, Michael, doesn't even begin to touch on the cameos we got in this
Benjamin,
fucking episode.
You shut your mouth. Spider-Man was in it. Spider-Man
was there.
was in it. 1997 Spider-Man. Spider-Man, Spider-Blood, radioactive Spider-Blood, Spider-Man. So exciting.
He was right there. Dr. Doom was there.
Yeah, he's just a Jessup though, isn't he? He's no Spider-Man.
He's no Spider-Man. Baron Zemo was there. Silver Samurai was there. Omega Red made an appearance, Michael.
Benjamin, those scientists who had Omega Red in some sort of holding facility, they're in big trouble now, I'd say.
Oh, they're fucked. For anyone who doesn't know, ladies and gentlemen, Omega Red, and Michael, you're welcome to correct me at any point here.
Oh, I will.
Omega Red is a classic Wolverine villain. He's a Russian assassin mutant and essentially part of the Russian Weapon X program, or the equivalent program over there. I think it might be the Omega series. I think they might have an Omega Blue and Omega Yellow. Do they?
I don't remember that. But yeah, he's big time trouble.
Yeah, he makes death spores.
Yeah, he's uses his big whippy arm things to kill you as soon as look at you.
It's no fucking good. Omega Red, no good. The other thing that this episode confirmed to me, Michael, is I could not give two fucking tosses about Jubilee or Huberto.
Yeah, who cares?
I do not care.
Who cares?
I don't
care.
We
get it. Mutants represent the people who are underprivileged and misrepresented in real life. We get it. We support that. We don't care about Huberto's mother.
Gang.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about Huberto's mother, including Huberto himself after this episode. But Michael, the pinnacle of this episode,
yes,
and I didn't think it could get much better until fucking Sinister pops up on the screen and says, that human woman, let him loose. And I was like, oh, fuck. Oh, here we go.
Here we go. Magneto's free.
And I didn't know if they were gonna soft shoe it in for the next episode, where they do a fucking thing of, he's too weak to do anything now, but he's gonna recoup his strength and he's gonna come in. No, he just goes out there like the Omega fucking mutant daddy that he is, in the fucking tidy whities.
In the tidy whities, like, Benjamin.
Right. Yeah,
Chris Claremont literally spinning in his grave.
He just goes, fuck this. He heads up to the North Pole and he goes, fucking sort this out.
Yeah.
And he does. He just fucking wrecks Bastion and his entire fucking plan.
Benjamin.
And Michael, if they do that fucking thing where Bastion goes, I anticipated this, I'll fucking flip. I'll lose my shit.
I don't think I will, because I think that's the only reason. Goading Magneto into doing that is the only reason for Bastion to have kept Magneto alive.
Yeah,
I think
look, it's the only thing that makes sense.
I don't think this is Bastion going, I was ready for you to do that. I think the whole point of everything that has happened was to get Magneto to make a grand terrorist gesture.
I tell you what pissed me off more than anything, Michael, after that is, Magneto's done it, he's declared war. And then I was like, yeah, but hang on, lads.
Go on.
Valerie Cooper hits the nail on the head. Magneto was right. Like,
Yeah, but
fuck this,
but
man.
the thing is, though, Benjamin, Magneto has killed more people with that act than Bastion was going to kill with the Sentinels. Because he's disabled. Think of all the people in hospitals on life support. Think of the people who are in planes. Like, that is a global catastrophe. Now, I don't know how much they're going to upplay or downplay that, but the power on every machine in the world going off at the same time is a global catastrophe. Like, how much they're going to play into this next week is what fascinates me.
I can't wait, Michael. A fabulous episode. What a fucking setup. Yeah, great stuff. Oh, we're running out of time, Michael. You're tapping your little watch at me there.
I'm telling you, Benjamin, you better get on to
Michael doesn't have a watch.
You better get on to this bloody supernatural detective agencies, or else we're never going to talk about it.
Well, Michael, as I said to yourself,
What is it?
only last week, I watched the Dead Boy Detectives, and I said we'd take a look, Michael, at the Occult Detective and where they come from in the old fiction
Go on.
that we enjoy ourselves. I've made another flowchart, Michael,
Oh,
for
look,
this.
there's another flowchart, ladies and gentlemen. This flowchart's flipping.
I got real
everywhere.
excited.
Oh, yeah.
I got real excited and I said we'd get into the flowcharts this week. Because it turns out, Michael, these actually really suit my scatterbrained approach to anything. And they're quite helpful for reminding me of what I wanted to talk about. As opposed to a linear set of...
Yeah, I like how you've just used different colour lines for stuff that doesn't seem to have any rhyme or reason to it. That's very upsetting.
No, the important thing is that I follow the line, Michael, not that it has to be colour coded.
Right, okay.
We might get into colour coding for the next week's
Oh, how exciting.
topic and thing as we go along. But we took a look, Michael, or I took a look specifically at where kind of all of this has come from. When we talk about the Occult Detective, Michael, it's become a bit of a staple especially in urban fantasy. An urban fantasy is a magical setting in the modern world, essentially, a contemporary magic setting. Now, not fucking Harry Potter.
No.
Right?
Bright.
Because there's nothing urban about that, Michael.
No. It's very parochial and
Nothing.
British.
It's just a very parochial and British. And now, as it turns out, transphobic. But come here to me. This is very common in the urban fantasy setting. And I said we'd take a look at where this comes from. Because, Michael, we got some news this week that they're going to do a live-action adaptation of the old Scooby-Doo gang.
How exciting, Benjamin, from Berlanti Productions, who are, funnily enough, I think, behind Dead Boy Detectives.
Yes, I think it is them, Michael. And I think they've basically been greenlit to have a go at it because Dead Boy Detectives has been quite successful, Michael. And I have to say, having finished it with the finale this week, they do tie it all together very well. It was a decent series in the end. It pulled its socks up, as it were, Michael, and delivered a tight finale.
That's good.
And a good... Yeah, so it was good for them. But now it's led to us getting a greenlit live-action Scooby-Doo, which will be interesting, because we just got the announcement of Velma Season 2, which was the Mindy Kaling bizarre HBO series where they took the gang, the Mystery Incorporated gang, and they made them into various people of colour and got rid of the dog.
Yeah, and made everyone horrible. Great stuff.
Yeah, and they've greenlit a second season of that. So we're getting a lot of occult detective stuff going. And Michael, you and I have been obsessed with occult detectives for many years, as it happens.
One of my
because we've talked about the
genres.
Absolutely. One of your favourite genres, Michael. And like all good things on this podcast, Michael, it starts back in the Victorian era.
Oh, we always find our way back to the Victorian era, don't we?
We can't help it, Michael. But you know what my favourite bit of info this week, Michael, is?
What?
proto-occult detective figure, the kind of earliest possible semblance of this trope, was created by a fucking Irishman.
Yay!
It's fucking great news. One of my favourite things, Michael, one of my favourite things in this podcast is when there's something I absolutely fucking love and it turns out that it was fucking created by an Irishman. Now, usually, unfortunately, it's a West Brit.
Yeah.
And
Fucking Bram
that's a
Stoker.
key. Ladies and gentlemen, for anyone who isn't Irish and listening to this podcast, whenever we talk about an Irishman who is either heavily educated in England or a bit of a bootlicker for the English Empire back in the day, we end up calling them a West Brit. That's the term that we christen them with, and it's what we give to them. In this particular case, Michael, it's not so much a West Brit as an Americanized Irishman.
Oh, a different take on it. An East Brit.
Yeah, so an East Brit essentially. We got Michael, a guy called Fitzjames O'Brien, and he was operating in the world around 1826 to 1862, and he was Irish born. He was born in Cork, and his original name, Michael, was Michael O'Brien.
Oh, good.
He was from Cork.
Yeah, because I was just about to say, Benjamin, that sounds like the type of name that someone who's only vaguely aware of Ireland would make up to try and sound Irish.
Yeah, so his original heritage hailed from Cork. He was educated at Trinity College, Dublin.
Of course he was, yeah, like every West Brit.
True West Brit tradition. He was believed to have been a member of the British Army at one point or another.
Classic. Where were you educated, Benjamin?
Yeah.
Just out of interest.
Just
out of interest.
As it happens, Michael, I was educated in that self-same institution.
That's a bit of a coincidence there.
It is, yeah. It's great. It's great. I'm going to write a bunch of stories about fucking supernatural detectives.
Oh, very good.
Then to go on from there. But anyway, one of the characters that he created for a short story, Michael, was a man called Harry Escott.
Oh, yeah. After the scarf.
Named after the scarf. And Harry Escott, Michael, is essentially a supernatural detective. He was a ghost investigator in this short story. And it's really interesting. It's in a short story called A Pot of Tulips, Michael.
Oh, yeah. Is it about just a bunch of idiots?
The short story. It's fucking bizarre. It's called A Pot of Tulips. It's a bunch of idiots.
You alright? You gone?
That just made me laugh. I don't know if people are going to get that reference either if they're not from Ireland, but sometimes if someone's a fucking doge, you call them a tulip.
Yeah, fucking tulip, yeah.
Anyway, Harry Escott is one of the earliest examples. He's just an investigator looking into a ghost story, but he does seem to be the proto kind of supernatural investigator or occult detective, as we're talking about today. And then, Michael, from there, we get two other notable examples, again from Irishmen. So just last week, we talked about... 2 weeks ago now, Michael, we talked about Sheridan Le Fanu's Carmilla.
Oh, yeah. The sexy vampire lesbians.
Yeah. And he created an occult kind of academic in Dr. Martin Hecilius. That was the name of the occult detective that he had. And he would go on to feature in a few short stories by Sheridan Le Fanu. And he is an occult investigator. He travels the world and documents unusual cases and tries to solve the problems brought about by the supernatural in the modern world. So he was there. And then, of course, Michael, there's Bram Stoker in 1897, and he creates Dr. Abraham Van Helsing.
Oh, yeah. Is one of the most famous.
Probably one of the most famous, Michael. And here is where we get the interesting kind of splitting of the occult detective as a genre. So Dr. Martin or Abraham Van Helsing is essentially a slayer of vampires. He hunts down vampires and he tries to kill them. That's what he does. But it's done a little bit through investigating, Michael. But it brings us to an interesting kind of splitting of the genre or subgenres within the occult detective genre. And those are the detective, which is a classic kind of investigator trope where, there's something mysterious and supernatural afoot. How will we get to the bottom of this? Call in the detective.
Who will they get?
And those are kinds of...
Yeah.
So you probably would have gotten, Michael, as you transition from the Victorian period to the early Edwardian period, you probably would have gotten one of two people, Michael. John Silence, who was a very popular character created by Algernon Wood, I think was his name. I have it here in my notes, Michael.
Okay.
He was one example. He had a series of short stories in 1908, Michael. And you also probably would have gotten the more popular version and the occult detective as we know it today, John Carnacki, was the name of the other character. And I had to do a little bit of reading about John Carnacki this week, Michael, and it was very enjoyable for me to find out about this guy. So John Carnacki is Sherlock Holmes with a Necronomicon in his study.
Oh, how exciting.
It's pretty interesting. And the detective genre was massively popular, obviously, in the Victorian era, Michael. And then the supernatural reached its peak in the Victorian era as well. And we started to combine those together to keep the detective genre kind of new and spicy. And John Carnacki was one of the characters that really emerged from that in 1910. Now, John Carnacki is Sherlock Holmes in all but name. He is elite. He is upper class. He is highly educated, and what he does and what sets him apart from other kind of hocus pocus supernatural investigators, as he calls them, Michael, is he applies rigorous logic and scientific methods to the supernatural.
Oh, that's exciting. That's what I
Yeah.
would love to do. I wish ghosts were real, Ben.
Yeah, you would enjoy that.
Oh,
Michael. That'd
great.
be your bread and butter.
Yeah. Of
Yeah.
course, Ben.
So-
if it was real, if ghosts were real and were in the real world, and you could apply super or scientific rigor to them, we would reduce it to boringness within a couple of years.
I'd give it 5 years max. We'd get 5 years of that. So, yeah, it just wouldn't work. But John Carnacki was created by William Hope Hodgson, and he's a supernatural detective, and he kind of investigates all that kind of thing. But he does so, Michael, with a few rigorous scientific methods. And this is the thing that makes him fascinating for me. He has something that he calls the electric... Hang on, I have it. The electric pentacle.
Oh, the EKG meter.
Essentially, the electric pentacle, Michael. A pentacle famously is the 5-pointed star that you trap demons in Supernatural, which we'll get to a little bit later in this very episode, Michael. But a pentacle, essentially, Michael, he has the electric pentacle, which reminded me of the sonic screwdriver. John Carnacki is a little bit like Doctor Who,
Oh, cool.
but for ghosts and demons, because he has a set of tools that no one else has, and he turns up quite often. He's like, "Hello, I'm John Carnacki. I'm here to help this mysterious thing that you can't get to grips on."
Ooh.
And he pops up all over England. And he's like, "I'm John Carnacki. I'm here to help." Carnacki, John Carnacki. And he's kind of like James Bond meets Doctor Who with a good heaping dose of the supernatural thrown in there. So those are our proto kind of occult detective figures, Michael. And then the invention of comic books zones in on this, Michael, and surges forward. And what we get is the classic detective fiction of the 1800s gives way to the brand new style of detective fiction, which is the hard-boiled detective or the pulp detective fiction of the early 30s and 40s.
Now you listen here, you son of a ghost.
Precisely, Michael. Thank you for that fucking spot-on audio clip there that I will definitely be putting in a reel later on. I look forward to doing that myself. So that gives way to a new kind of occult detective, and one of the earliest examples of that is from DC Comics, and very on the nosely, he's just called Dr. Occult.
Oh yeah, Dr. Ghost.
Dr. Ghost, essentially. So Dr. Occult is really interesting, right? He's from the same creators of Superman. He's from Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
Oh yeah.
They created Dr. Occult. And he debuted in 1935, so he's a really early example of this. And Dr. Occult has lasted in the DC universe for a very long time. Apart from the last 10 years, he's kind of been forgotten about in the horde of reboots that DC went through. But for a very long time, if you saw one of the mystic members of DC, and there are so many, there's Dr. Fate, there's the Phantom Stranger, there's John Constantine, or Hellblazer if you want to call him that, and then you had Dr. Occult, and he would pop up. So much so, Michael, that I found out about one of my favourite superhero team-ups ever. In 1999, DC debuted a brand new occult superhero team called the Trenchcoat Brigade, and it was made up of the Phantom Stranger,
Oh yeah.
Dr. Occult, and John Constantine.
And 4 lads who I went to college with.
So anyway, Dr. Occult is the hard-boiled kind of detective. He's going around, he's solving crimes, And, that's how it worked. He would go on to be a huge inspiration for another huge occult detective that would come much later, Michael, Hellboy, who is another hard-boiled detective.
In a trench coat.
Except this time steeped in folklore. In a trench coat, Michael. In a trench coat. Exactly. So he would go on to inspire that a little bit later. But in between 1935 and the modern era of contemporary kind of urban fantasy that we come into, there was one very particular group of pesky kids and their meddling dog that would kind of define the supernatural mystery genre for far too long, Michael. And that, of course, was Scooby-Doo. Where Are You? He debuted in 1969, Michael. And we can't really group them in to the same era because theoretically they're not real supernatural mysteries.
Yeah. Were any of them ever supernatural then?
In the early editions, absolutely not.
Okay.
Not supernatural at all. Until we get to Scooby-Doo and I think it's Zombie Island.
Okay.
And that was an animated movie that came out in the 1990s. And that was the first time, Michael, that you couldn't just whip a mask off the villain and say, oh, it was old Mr. Jenkins all along. And Fred would go, I knew it, and blah, blah, blah. That was the first time that it was like, oh, no, these are actual zombies and werecats. Oh, my. Oh, my.
Oh, very much so.
And that was but that didn't happen until the 1990s or the early 2000s, Michael. That was a much later addition to the Scooby-Doo franchise. But in between that kind of wave of occult detectives in the early 1900s, the early 1930s, it kind of died out then post World War II when that massive wave of atomic science fiction that we talked about in last week's episode, ladies and gentlemen, kind of took over. And that became the dominant new way of writing. It wasn't about ghosts and ghouls and goblins. It was about the future and the atomic bomb and robots and automation and all that kind of thing.
Lasers.
Yeah. So for a while, that kind of died down. Are you okay for time? Am I going miles over? I'm going a little bit over, but I can...
I'm okay for time, Benjamin. I just hope the listeners are.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry if you're not. You're strapped in now, so here we go. So anyway, Michael, that dies down. However, there is one particular show which I have yet to see because I've been trying to track it down. It's a bit of a lost media thing.
Go on.
Something is released in 19...
I know a guy.
Go on.
Okay, keep going. I know a guy who might be able to help. We might be able to get this by next week, but go on.
So, in 1972, Michael, a movie is released called Kolchak Night Stalker.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it, Michael. And it is just a very bare bones kind of 1970s detective thing in the style of The French Connection, in the style of All the President's Men, in the style of, that kind of political noir mystery thing. Everything's shite post-60s because Nixon was a bastard and they shot Kennedy and everything's dark and grim and horrible. And so in Kolchak, Michael, it centers around the figure of Kolchak himself, who's an investigative reporter.
Oh, like
as one might
paranormal investigative reporter, Ben?
A paranormal investigative reporter. And that's Karl Kolchak, Michael, and he's a reporter in Chicago. And essentially, that was a movie initially, right?
Go on.
And then, Michael, it became an ill-fated TV series. They attempted to adapt it for TV, and it became a case of the week procedural, but this time it was more of a monster of the week procedural, Michael.
Oh, we're heading into familiar territory.
We're heading into very familiar territory now, Michael. Each episode of Kolchak involved him investigating a different monster or paranormal phenomenon ranging from vampires to werewolves to aliens to ancient curses, right? And it had that classic occult detective trope of, we only call you in, Kolchak, when we're stuck. I don't like you. I don't like your methods, but they do get results. So it became this bizarre kind of consultant occult reporter trope. And that would go into influence a whole host of things. Apparently, Michael, it's a very janky series, but a good rip-roaring time all the same. And it is, Michael, the direct inspiration from one of your favourite occult mystery things of all time.
Harry Dresden?
Harry Dresden and...
Yes, go on.
Fucking X-Files, Michael.
Oh, X-Files. I didn't know X-Files was going to be included in this. X-Files
Absolutely it
veers
is.
a little bit more into sci-fi.
It does. So it leans away from the spooky ghost boys into the kind of aliens from outer space. But so did Kolchak. Kolchak is kind of this great hybrid kind of centered thing in the middle. But what Kolchak does and why it's become such a big deal within that world is it gives us the Monster of the Week format that would go on to be adapted by the likes of X-Files, by the likes of Buffy, and by the likes of Supernatural. Kolchak is the blueprint for a lot of that. So while it was very unsuccessful in its own right, it did kind of come up with the Monster of the Week formula, made possibly most famous by none other than Buffy. Now, the reason I have included a whole section on Buffy here, Michael, is that she falls into the Hunter and Slayer subgenre of the Occult Detective. There is some occult detecting going on in that.
A little bit. Like
It doesn't...
the first half of every episode in the first, say, 2 seasons or so were usually revolving around what's going on, how do we learn about it, how do we... like, what ancient mythology is this thing from? In later seasons, obviously, Buffy, like most of these shows, gets a little bit more serialized and has fewer and fewer Monster of the Weeks. So, obviously, the investigation of the monsters is downplayed.
Yeah, so I think the great flaw of a long-running occult detective series is eventually you're going to have to bring overarching plots in.
Oh, boo.
And kind of... Yeah, I know, and make those the kind of bread and butter of it and get people invested. It happened to Supernatural as well. Supernatural also in its first 2 seasons is just a by-the-book, 2 guys in a car investigating mysteries, figuring out what it is, and then, to quote Dean Winchester, figuring out how to gank it.
Yep, that's it.
As he would say. And it was a classic. It works really well. The occult kind of detective hunter is phenomenal. But that brings us a little bit before that time, Michael. You mentioned him already. There's Harry Dresden. And then there's Hellblazer or John Constantine. And I think there are a few kind of cultural touchstones that reshape the genre. I think Karnacki is one, Kolchak is another one, and then I think it's hard to say anything about... I think it's quite difficult to say anything about the occult supernatural detective genre without looking at John Constantine and how utterly shaped, especially the world of comic books and superheroes, has become by the tough-talking, working-class, dickhead, amoral supernatural investigator that is John Constantine and the Hellblazer.
Yeah, he's kind of the prototype. If anyone's doing like an RPG character of a paranormal investigator, they just start with the template of John Constantine.
Yeah, so I mean, but his bones are firmly buried in the pulp detective genre.
There's a kitty cat on Ben's
because he
table.
wears his trench coat everywhere. Huh?
There's a kitty cat on your table.
There's a kitty cat on my table. I don't have a cat. I've summoned it through black magic and saying the word Constantine too many times.
Black magic.
Yeah, you knew it was black magic. But when we talk about that, Michael, John Constantine has become, I guess, especially within comics, Michael, he is the defining occult detective character now. In competition only probably with Hellboy, but Hellboy is his own beast altogether, Michael. It's a heavily folklore and mythologically based kind of occult detection. So it's a different thing. But Constantine becomes, I guess, what you'd call the rogue practitioner and part of the Trenchcoat Brigade, which is a real thing. I didn't make that up. It's a real thing.
Well, Benjamin, the listeners will tell us because they'll check.
They'll check, and Harry Dresden is also part, not officially, of the Trenchcoat Brigade, because they're both hard-boiled detectives that don't go by the book at all, are constantly in trouble with the supernatural forces that balance the world, and constantly have to kind of con and trick their way in and out of these things. Fascinating examples. Harry Dresden is, I think, probably the world's favourite hard-boiled occult detective?
No, it's John Constantine, surely.
think-
Is Dresden more popular than Constantine?
I don't know, but Dresden has a massive following, including very good friend of the podcast, Connor, who is a huge Harry Dresden fan. A massive Harry Dresden fan. The Dresden Files, however, only made their debut in the year 2000, so he's a relatively new addition to that canon. John Constantine has been around since 1988 and has been acting the bollocks ever since, created by British comic books legend, fucking Alan Moore.
Benjamin, Andy has his own movie and TV series. And multiple animated movies.
Terrible.
I don't think there's any question who's more popular.
Yeah, alright, fair enough. It's John Constantine for the win. But ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
who's your favourite occult detective? Go on, let us know.
Minus the 1986 Filmation Ghostbusters, Ben. But we'll have to talk about them another day.
We will, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Michael.
No, that's quite all right,
fallen to
Benjamin. I'm very excited to talk about them another day. Have we ever done an episode, Benjamin, on banshees?
I'd say we have, but we can do another one, Michael, because at this point, who cares what we do?
Who cares at this stage? We probably did it 10 years ago. We should do another one.
Right, we'll space it out, Michael, and we'll do another one. We will have to quit this podcast at 10 years, though. I'm not going past 10 years on this podcast. If we manage a decade of podcasting, I quit.
Okay, fair enough.
Unless we're making a ton of money at that point, we've quit our actual...
Yeah, from the Patreon.
From the Patreon that doesn't exist. The spectral Patreon.
Ooh.
Ladies and gentlemen, who is your favourite occult detective? You can get in touch with us in a few different places to let us know. You can find us on the interwebs at
Ben.
www. What?
Just tell the listeners that it better not be fucking Frank and Elaine Warren.
Tell you what, if it's fucking... They're paranormal investigators and they're cunts. I won't have them mentioned on this podcast, Mike.
Fucking scam artists.
Fucking bastards.
Go on anyway, sorry.
Fucking bastards. Anyway, Michael, come here to me.
Yes, go on.
You can get in touch with us in a few different ways. You can find us on the interwebs at www.seomrabeag.com, seomrabeag.com.
It kind of means tiny room in Irish.
Sort of a little bit, maybe. You can also find us on our other website that we have for some reason, which is www.sherlockshirlisten.acast.com.
Go to that one. That's more up to date.
That's more up to date. It's got loads of information on it. You can also find us, ladies and gentlemen, on Instagram at Sherlockshirlisten Podcast.
You can. Sometimes we're in jail. Sometimes we're free.
Sometimes we get views, sometimes we don't. Who's to say, ladies and gentlemen? We're a little bit more consistent is on the TikTok at Sherlockshirlisten.
Hop up on the TikTok, but only if you're under 40.
Yeah, only... What? Yeah, only if... Okay, I was like, I thought we were actually placing a limit there. It's like, no, you're just less likely to be on TikTok if you're older.
Yeah, that was the joke. That was the joke.
Yeah. And as they say, Michael, explaining a joke only makes it better.
That's what they say.
As they say. What they say. But come here to me, ladies and gentlemen. The best way to get in touch with either Michael or myself and lambaste us for factual inaccuracies probably perpetrated by me, Benjamin Colby, is to up on that Discord linked below in the description.
I'd say it's about 90% chance that was you who got it wrong. I'd say roughly.
I'd say, I think...
I'm not saying I never get things wrong. I'd say it's just... I have a less laissez-faire attitude to making sure I'm right.
Of a cavalier Susan when it comes to facts and dates and other things. Yeah. But come here to me, Michael.
What?
You can join us next week for more inaccurate reporting on pop culture when we take a look at...
Yeah, go on.
I Can Change Him. The trope that has somehow led to the inexplicable creation of something called Snape Wives, which I had to learn about this week, so you'll have to learn about next week.
Oh, no, I don't like the sound of this. Is this women who are in love with Snape and think that they could change him?
Yeah.
All right, I've saved us the trouble, Ben.
That's the episode. Done. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it from us. Bye-bye. We're off to investigate some mysteries.
See you next week. We're going to investigate some ghosts.